The story begins with Dwight, the General Manfredi, a loyal mobster who has just been released from prison after serving a 25-year sentence for murder. Throughout his imprisonment, Dwight stayed silent, taking the fall for his crime family and expecting a hero's welcome upon release. However, things don't go as he imagined. Instead of being rewarded, Dwight is summoned by Chicky, the son of the mob boss Pete, and is ordered to move to Tulsa, Oklahoma to set up a new base and send back $5,000 every week. Dwight is visibly upset. He sees this not as a reward, but as exile. Tensions boil over, and during a heated argument, he punches Vince, a made man and loyal follower of Chicky. Despite this, with Pete standing by his son, Dwight has no choice but to accept his fate and head to Tulsa. Upon arriving in Tulsa, Dwight takes a cab driven by a young man named Tyson. He asks Tyson to find him a quiet hotel where he won't be disturbed. During the ride, Dwight learns about the city, its abundance of churches, and the fact that marijuana is legal there. Intrigued, he asks Tyson to take him to a local weed dispensary. At the dispensary, Dwight insists on meeting the owner, Bodie. Suspecting a robbery, Bodie is defensive, but Dwight surprises him by asking to see the financial records. After a glance at the books, Dwight realizes the business is making a lot of cash. When Bodie claims all the money is deposited in the bank, Dwight doesn't buy it. He pressures Bodie into revealing his hidden safe full of cash. Seizing the opportunity, Dwight tells Bodie they are now partners. He'll be taking 20% of the profits each week in exchange for protection. With his first deal in place, Dwight offers Tyson a job as his personal driver and gives him money to buy a new car. That evening, Dwight visits a local bar where he meets Mitch, the bar's owner, and a former convict himself. The two quickly bond. When Tyson returns to the car dealership to buy a vehicle, the staff refuse to sell him one, possibly due to his race. He comes back with Dwight, who asserts himself in classic mob fashion. Tyson is impressed by Dwight's confidence and power. Dwight begins to embrace his freedom, exploring the city and enjoying his new life. At one point, someone appears to recognize him, hinting at trouble ahead. Dwight also revisits Bodie, bringing security cameras for the shop and asking about his supplier. He advises Bodie to start laundering the cash to avoid legal trouble. As the night falls, Dwight heads back to the bar. There, he gets invited to a private party and ends up spending the night with a woman named Stacy. However, the next morning, Stacy realizes Dwight is much older than he seemed and quickly sneaks out of his hotel room. Later, it's revealed that Stacy is actually an ATF agent. She becomes aware of Dwight's presence in Tulsa after he gets flagged by the feds due to his recent release from prison. Curious, she begins digging into his background and discovers that Dwight was convicted of murdering an associate. The feds had tried to flip him 6 times during his sentence, but he refused each time. Stacy also uncovers that Dwight has a daughter who lives in New York. Meanwhile, Dwight is shown sending money back to New York and holding on to a letter his daughter wrote him when she was a child. Hoping to reconnect with her, he searches for her online, but needs to pay to access certain information. This prompts him to finally open a bank account. Back in New York, Vince is furious after being knocked out by Dwight and demands revenge. Chicky, attempting to smooth things over, insists Dwight pay Vince $100,000. Though enraged by the demand, Dwight agrees to handle it. To raise the money, he turns to Bodie and persuades him to introduce him to his supplier. They visit Jimmy's farm, where Dwight sees the scale of the marijuana operation. He uses his negotiation skills to secure a better deal, increasing Bodie's profit margins, and by extension, his own. Shortly after, Dwight receives his debit card and finally obtains his daughter's contact details. He calls her, hoping to reconnect, but she rejects him and makes it clear she doesn't want any relationship with him. Stacy later pays Dwight a visit and reveals her true identity as an ATF agent. She tells him she knows about his criminal past. When she brings up his daughter, Dwight opens up. He hasn't spoken to his family in 18 years, and there's nothing left for him in New York. That's why he came to Tulsa, and she has nothing to fear from him. We later learn that it was Dwight himself who told his daughter not to visit him in prison, as it was too painful for him. Meanwhile, the man who previously recognized Dwight is revealed to be Manny, a former mobster now living a quiet life on a ranch. Once his suspicions are confirmed and he learns that Dwight is indeed in Tulsa, Manny panics, believing Dwight is there to kill him. Determined to act first, he follows Dwight and tries to assassinate him. The attempt fails, but Manny manages to escape. Dwight crashes while pursuing him and ends up being questioned by the police. On another front, Stacy is seen leading an ATF operation against a heavily armed man, a member of a biker gang called the Black McAdams. The man eventually blows himself up. It's a hard day for Stacy, and she ends up bailing Dwight out of the police station. The two go out for dinner. Over dinner, Dwight learns more about Stacy's past, how she made a bad judgment call and was reassigned to ATF Tulsa, which she describes as a kind of Siberia for agents. She's in therapy and trying to move on after her divorce. The evening ends with the two sleeping together again. We also learn more about the biker gang, the Black McAdams, which Stacy is actively investigating. The man who detonated himself was one of their members. Elsewhere, Tyson's father, Mark, becomes concerned about his son's involvement with Dwight. He sees Dwight as a dangerous influence and pleads with Tyson to walk away before it's too late. But Tyson refuses. He's enamored with the gangster lifestyle and deeply loyal to Dwight. Dwight, aware of the growing danger around him and the violent nature of his world, also advises Tyson to leave for his own safety. But Tyson remains steadfast. He wants to stay by Dwight's side and become his right-hand man. Later, Dwight attends a party at Bodie's place, where he notices guests enjoying hits of nitrous oxide. Sensing an opportunity, Dwight brings Bodie and Mitch in on a new scheme. He proposes selling nitrous oxide as a party drug during the upcoming Tulsa Music Festival. Using Mitch's bar as a front to legally obtain the gas, they could operate without raising suspicion. Seeing the profit potential, both Bodie and Mitch agree to the plan. Not long after, Dwight survives a shooting and suspects Chicky might be behind the hit. But Chicky assures him he had nothing to do with it. Unconvinced and not knowing who targeted him, Dwight launches his own investigation. His leads take him to a ranch where he meets the owner, Margaret. Though he's impressed by her, she doesn't provide any helpful information. Dwight decides to stake out the ranch, eventually identifying a familiar face, Manny. He follows him back to his home and confronts him the next morning. Dwight demands to know if Chicky sent him to kill him. Manny insists he wasn't sent by anyone. He had only acted because he thought Dwight was there to kill him. Manny explains that he left New York decades ago to escape the mob life and has been living quietly in Tulsa ever since. When he saw Dwight at the mall, he panicked, assuming his past had finally caught up with him. Still suspicious, Dwight listens as Manny reveals a critical piece of information. The man who tried to kill Dwight in prison had actually been sent by Pete, their boss. The family wasn't sure if Dwight would stay loyal, and because Manny knew the truth, they feared he'd tell Dwight, so he fled. Realizing Manny is telling the truth, Dwight decides to spare him, but demands that Manny now works for him and pays weekly tribute. As Dwight leaves, Manny's wife returns home and is shocked to find her husband lying on the floor. Later, Manny confesses his criminal past to her. Fearing for their safety, she urges him to leave town, and he agrees. Meanwhile, Tyson and Bodie have a successful first day selling nitrous oxide at the music festival. However, they're soon confronted by members of the Black McAdam biker gang who are also pushing product at the event. Despite the tension, Tyson and Bodie stand their ground and push the bikers back. Impressed by Tyson's courage and dedication, Dwight gives him his ring, telling him it no longer holds any value for him. But things take a turn. Waltrip, the ruthless leader of the Black McAdam gang, is furious that his men backed down. To reassert dominance, he punishes them, and the next day, his gang retaliates. They attack Tyson and Bodie, beat them up, and steal both their gas tank and the money they'd earned. Mark, Tyson's father, is heartbroken when he sees his son bruised and bloodied. Meanwhile, Dwight praises Tyson and Bodie for their bravery and tells them not to worry, they'll strike back. Dwight begins assembling his own crew to face off against the bikers. He recruits Manny, one of Jimmy's men, who's thrilled to be included, and even Mark, who insists on joining, telling Dwight he needs to do this for his son. As the music festival winds down, Dwight's crew gets ready for payback. After the biker gang ambush, Dwight and his crew strike back. They recover the stolen money and nitrous oxide tanks, sending a clear message. Manny, fired up by the adrenaline, finally confronts his annoying neighbor, something he had wanted to do for years. Feeling empowered, he tells his wife they're no longer moving, he's staying and standing his ground. Soon after, Dwight receives news that his older brother is gravely ill. With the help of his sister Joanne, he manages to say his final goodbye. Following his brother's death, Dwight travels back to New York to attend the funeral. While there, he also tries to reconnect with his daughter Tina, but she still wants nothing to do with him. Chicky, meanwhile, is furious that Dwight came to New York without informing him. He demands that Dwight visit their father, Pete, who is now hospitalized. Although Chicky knows why Dwight is in town, he uses the situation to assert authority. When Dwight finally visits the hospital, tensions rise again as he gets into another heated confrontation with Vince. Back in Tulsa, Waltrip, the leader of the Black McAdams gang, uses his influence over the local sheriff to get Tyson arrested on fabricated charges. Using Tyson's phone, they trace the connection between him, Dwight, and Bodie. With Dwight still in New York, they kidnap Bodie and take him to Waltrip. Under threat, Bodie gives away limited information, revealing Mitch's involvement. Waltrip then sends Bodie and some crooked cops to intimidate Mitch. But things don't go as planned. Mitch's bar is located on tribal land, which puts it out of the sheriff's jurisdiction. Mitch stands his ground and manages to get Bodie released. Tyson is also let go soon after. Meanwhile, Manny receives a warning from a co-worker named Roxy, who is secretly affiliated with the Black McAdams. She tells him to stay away from the gang, hinting at how dangerous they really are. Back in New York, Dwight attempts again to reach his daughter. She finally opens up and reveals that she was assaulted years ago by one of Pete's men while Dwight was in prison. Devastated and enraged, Dwight confronts Pete to find out if he knew. When Pete denies any knowledge, Dwight tracks down the man responsible and takes him out, right in front of Chicky. Later, Dwight apologizes to his daughter for not being there and tells her what he did. This act finally begins to mend the broken bond between them. Meanwhile, it's revealed that Roxy is actually an informant for the ATF. She tells them about a brewing conflict between the biker gang and a mysterious mafia figure from New York. Stacy, realizing that Roxy is referring to Dwight, urges her to focus on the bikers. But her boss, interested in the drug angle, passes the intel to the federal authorities. Soon, the feds raid Bodie's shop, confiscating all the nitrous oxide and detaining him for questioning. When Dwight returns to Tulsa, he learns about everything that happened while he was away. Stacy also meets with him and warns that he's now on the feds' radar. She's clearly worried for both of them. If her involvement with Dwight is exposed, her career could be over. Bodie, later released, assures Dwight that he didn't say a word because they're partners. Dwight's team, despite all the heat, begins to feel more like a family. Waltrip then arranges a meeting with Dwight, demanding a cut of his business to avoid further conflict. But Dwight refuses, makes his position clear, and walks away, unshaken. Back in New York, tensions rise even further. Vince suggests that they should take care of Dwight and even his daughter. Shockingly, Chicky agrees. But Pete, furious at the mere thought of harming a child, publicly slaps Chicky in front of the crew. Eventually, Pete decides to send one of his trusted men, Goody, to Tulsa. His mission? Smooth things over and see what Dwight has really built. Unable to hurt Dwight's daughter, Chicky instead targets Dwight's son-in-law, arranging for him to be attacked in what looks like a random mugging. Meanwhile, in Tulsa, Dwight comes across a white horse destined to be put down. Touched by the animal, he buys it, hires an ex-waitress named Spencer to take care of it, and sends it to Margaret's ranch. Around the same time, Stacy asks Dwight to help her take down Waltrip, but he refuses. He makes it clear he's not a rat and never will be. Later, Dwight brings up the idea of renovating Mitch's bar into a club. As they talk, Carson Pike, one of Waltrip's men, attacks the bar. Dwight and Mitch survive the shootout and kill Pike in self-defense. Mitch, impressed and loyal, agrees to officially partner up with Dwight. They discreetly dispose of the body, sending Pike's jacket back to the Black McAdams as a warning. Roxy, seeing the jacket, breaks down. Pike was her boyfriend. She meets with Stacy and begs to escape the situation. Stacy convinces her to find something solid that could be used against Waltrip. Once that's done, she promises to help her disappear. Meanwhile, Goody arrives in Tulsa and is stunned to see Manny working with Dwight. He also notices that Tyson is wearing the pinky ring, a family heirloom once given to to Dwight by Pete. When Goody meets Dwight, he's impressed with the scale and professionalism of his operation. Dwight questions him about the attack on his son-in-law, and Goody insists they had nothing to do with it. Returning to New York, Goody reports everything to Pete and Chicky. He warns them. Dwight is getting stronger, and their influence over him is fading fast. Back in Tulsa, Dwight invites Bodie to become a full partner in the new club project. Bodie agrees and reveals a surprise. He's an expert hacker and has a massive stash of stolen cryptocurrency. To legally run a casino, Dwight brings in Jimmy, whose clean record will allow them to apply for the necessary license. Jimmy agrees. Things escalate in New York when Tina starts receiving mysterious silent phone calls. Worried, Dwight urges her to come to Tulsa for safety, but she refuses. Chicky, feeling overshadowed by Dwight and believing Pete still favors him, finally loses control. He drowns Pete in the bathtub, killing him and seizing control of the family. Goody later informs Dwight of Pete's death. Although saddened, Dwight refuses to attend the funeral. But at the funeral, Goody realizes Chicky has decided to eliminate Dwight and threatens Goody when he hesitates. Back in Tulsa, Roxy sneaks into Waltrip's office looking for his laptop, but she's caught in the act. Waltrip, not willing to take chances, kills her. Stacy, devastated by Roxy's death but without evidence, can't act. Later, the ATF meets with the feds and learns that Dwight is already on their radar. They're aware of his war with Waltrip, his relationship with Margaret, and even a second, unidentified woman in his life. Using federal intel, Stacy organizes a raid on Waltrip's bar. During the search, they seize his laptop, filled with incriminating financial records tying him to a web of illegal activity. Finally, they have what they need to go after him. With tensions rising, Dwight and Mitch start training their inexperienced crew in firearms to prepare for a possible war. Waltrip, in desperation, tries to use corrupt local sheriffs to arrest Dwight, but Dwight's growing influence forces them to back off. Later that night, Stacy informs Dwight that she has taken care of Waltrip and assures him there's no need to worry. However, just as they're talking, Waltrip suddenly opens fire, and Stacy is hit. The police arrive shortly after and arrest Dwight for questioning. In a flashback from 1997, we see Chicky and Vince torturing a family member, Ripple, for betraying their trust. Manny, who witnesses the escalation, calls Dwight. Upon arriving, Dwight manages to stop Chicky, but the house catches fire. With Vince handcuffed and the keys lost, Dwight is unable to free him. Facing an agonizing death by fire, Dwight ends Vince's suffering with a bullet. He's later arrested for murder. In the present day, Dwight's lawyer gets him released. He visits Stacy in the hospital and assures her that he will take care of Waltrip. He then asks Bodie to hack into Waltrip's ATF computer and drain all his funds. Bodie succeeds, leaving Waltrip furious. When one of his men questions him, Waltrip kills him in rage. Meanwhile, Dwight learns that Chicky and Goody have arrived in Tulsa. It turns out that Goody had warned Manny before their trip. Dwight confronts them, telling Chicky he sent him to Tulsa to die and owes him nothing. He orders them to leave his town for good, asserting his authority. Dwight then invites Goody to stay and join his crew, and Goody accepts. Back at the bar, Dwight tells his crew they're going to war. To survive, they must protect each other like a true family, and everyone agrees. Later, Waltrip and his men launch an attack, but Dwight and his crew are prepared and take them down. Dwight ultimately kills Waltrip. Dwight sends Stacy a get-well-soon card along with a flash drive, thanking her and encouraging her to live her life fully. Months later, he reconciles with his daughter, who visits him in Tulsa with his grandchildren. Stacy is reinstated in her position, but under certain conditions. In the final scenes, Dwight is seen enjoying time with his crew and daughter at their now operational casino and club. However, the season ends with a twist. Stacy arrives and has Dwight arrested for the attempted bribery of a federal agent right in front of his shocked daughter.